On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are talking about Strange New Worlds 204, Among the Lotus Eaters, right after these words from our mystery sponsors.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on two lifelong friends sit and chat about Star Trek. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
Dave, good to be with you in person again.
Yeah, man, this is weird.
It is weird. I have moved into my house. This is the first podcast in the new Panda HQ here. It's not very much to look at yet.
No.
It's like I'm sitting on a card table and you're just sitting next to me.
Right.
And that's all we got. But
I mean, it's a nice house.
I thank you. I love it. I'm really, really happy with it. But right now there's really not furniture or a desk, and like I made you have to hold your own microphone.
Yeah,
because I don't have enough stands yet.
And you're trying to plug in your thing because your dog keeps knocking it out.
Yeah, my dog is so freaked out because he's in the space he doesn't recognize, and he just keeps like trying to crawl under whatever piece of furniture I'm in, no matter how much space there is under it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been a harrowing day or two, but I'm very excited to be here and happy to do another one in person. Now that you live, I don't know, not that far from me at all.
Like 15 minutes away.
Yeah. Previously, I was a good 20 extra minutes from here. So it's like 35 minutes from your house to my house. And now it's like not far. So we might do this more often. I'm loving it.
Yeah. This is cool. I like recording in person.
Me too. Well, you want to get into Among the Lotus Eaters or whatever it's called?
By the way, do you know what that references?
I don't, but is it something like Lotus Eaters, Lotus flowers make you forget or something like that? Is that like the reference?
Yeah, it's from the Odyssey.
Okay. I remembered it being somewhere in whatever.
Yeah, Odysseus and his men come to an island where they eat this fruit or something. They're called Lotus, and they forget. They're like lazy, and they have like really bad memories and stuff. And the crew has the same thing after they start eating the fruit.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm a big fan of the Odyssey.
That's awesome. I remembered it was somewhere in like mythology or something, and I didn't remember it being the Odyssey. But yeah, it's cool. This episode was really interesting. At first blush, I kind of watched it twice, and at first blush, I was kind of like, this is a good idea, but I don't know that it really lands. Mm-hmm. And on second viewing, it just in a good sci-fi fashion, it raises a bunch of questions, doesn't really answer them, which I like. I really like when, just gives you a lot to think about, you know, mm-hmm. Who are you? I mean, that's the thing that really hit me, or right off the bat, who are you without your memory? Aren't we just a collection of our memories? Our experiences, and then that's the question: is that true? And this asks that question, and he does answer it in a way, but then they talk about how important your story is too. So it's kind of this. It actually goes really well with a concept that's really helped me out for the last 5 years. The idea of the experiential and the narrative self. Mm-hmm. And I used to always think I was a total piece of shit when I decided to I don't know, do something irresponsible. I'm going to be lazy today. Or I used to just make the mistake of being lazy. And I always felt I'm not working hard enough, or I'm going to eat pizza today, but tomorrow I'll do better, or I'll eat what I'm supposed to eat. Right.
Right.
That sort of there's this should self and the not, and what you shouldn't do self. The kind of growing up, it was the spiritual and the carnal, right? That's the
right.
But the thing that I've realized about that stuff that's helped me really a lot emotionally is this idea of the narrative self and the experiential self. The experiential self is the one that a lot of people think is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But it's also what we always want to do. I want every night I will make the decision if I'm living purely in my experiential self, I will make the decision to stay home and not interact with anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when I look back at my year, I want to have done some things. Mm-hmm. So now a lot of like my living is trying to balance the experiential self and the narrative self. Like that's a lot of when I think about it, I'm like when I think about deciding to do something that is I would classically think of as irresponsible, like take a day to just rest. I'm like, no, it's experiential Matt's day. Like he's gonna get it, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's not like a moralizing about it. It's just like that's experiential Matt's day. And like this was interesting because it basically that concept it strips them of their narrative self and they just have their experiential self. And then who are you? What drives you? And I really like the I fly the ship thing, like just knowing like what you do and what you love to do and what you're passionate about and like doing the thing you love and that being what carries them through the day or whatever. I don't know.
Okay. I really liked that concept for Pike. I love the bit at the end where he's like, no, it showed me who I was. It showed me who I am.
And the way they tied it together with Zach's story. So perfect.
Yeah, I would have liked more with him.
Me too.
I wanted more with him. I wanted more build up. I wanted more like exposition, which is something I almost never say. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to see like give me a flashback.
Yeah.
Instead of giving me the Ortega's storyline, give me that. Like
or give us more description of what happened. Just something to give us a little more background. Or like let more things happen on the planet. It did feel like I fell asleep in the middle of this one. Mm-hmm. That's part of the reason I watched it twice. And I thought I missed a lot more than I did. Like I got to the end and I was like, man, it's over? I fell asleep for a second and it was over. And I was like, okay, let me go back. And I rewatched. I was like, oh, I only missed like 2 minutes of screen time. Yeah. But it felt like, oh, this is just resolved? What happened?
Yeah. Yeah, it was not a great episode for me.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, I think it's thin. It doesn't have a lot of meat on its bones, but like the questions it asks, I love. And so, as a sci-fi concept, it's basically Memento the community, you know, like everybody has the Memento disease, and what does that mean? It also asks a lot more questions that I really love. Like it asks the questions of like sort of society and like the upper crust versus the I don't know, like whatever. There's a thousand ways to talk about it. Lower class, upper class,
right?
The people in the castle have time to think. Like if you take it less literally, it's like people in the castle, they have time to think about the future.
Right.
The person on the field, they don't have the luxury to think about the future, and they have to like toil. They have to toil to make it to the next day, and they have to think about what's directly in front of them. They got to think about the next bill, the next guard who's going to hit them, the next whatever. And the people in the castle have the luxury of a narrative self. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was another really strong undertone for this episode too.
That was a strong undertone. I'm glad they didn't hit me over the head with it.
Yeah,
but I would have liked to have seen more because they set up certain things. Like they set up like the handwriting, they get the ink or whatever on their skin.
Yeah.
Like I thought they were going to do something more with that, and they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
Hey, not really. Like I thought they were going to be like constructing their own narrative throughout the years on their skin, and they didn't do that.
Right. Well, they do. They just haven't. What they use it for is that discussion of grief. Mm-hmm. And the what they use it for is the fact that what did he delete? He deleted his wife and child because it was too painful for him. And that's it's eternal spotless sunshine of the memento or whatever this episode. So they used it there, and that's the resolution of it. Is at the very end, he tells the story of his wife and child and points at the thing it's like a mystery at the beginning of like, why is there a missing tattoo? And it felt it felt good, and it felt when that guy said I was wrong or something like our stories are important. Mm-hmm. That was interesting and powerful. But I'm with you. I just think that like, as much as I do like the I fly the ship concept, I could have done without the entire Enterprise plotline.
Yeah.
Like they could have given me a little more meat on the Lotus Eaters society and given Pike's story more meaning. Like let him go through more stuff on that planet. let them drop him off there and be like, you're going to be there for 40 days and we don't know what's going to, like we can't come back for you or something like that. And let it give us those reasons and let them like deal with it for longer and let it really what if instead of fighting for his crewmen from the Enterprise, what if at the end he's fighting for his crew that he has built around him out in the like field, like what if they'd spent like many nights there and he's built like an entire like society that he's taking care of, and then at the end then you could actually like have an emotional loss or something like that where he like, and at the end when he has that conversation like he's like, this is what I do, I fight for my people, you're like yeah, that would have been I wanted that. I wanted more exploration of it, but so Strange New Worlds continually puts together episodes that I really like. Even when I see problems and don't love what they do, don't love every decision, I still like it a lot. Yeah,
now that you say that though, like I would have loved to have seen that episode. Like it reminds me of that Batman the Animated Series episode where Bruce goes undercover and then winds up like amnesiac in a chain gang. And winds up like building the community of chain gang guys.
Yeah, totally. I love that episode, and yeah, it would totally be that episode. But like, yeah, it's also already Memento and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So like, it's fine.
Yeah,
the guy choosing to forget his loved ones. Well, the whole community's got memento disease. Like it's a pastiche.
Yeah,
but the whole. Yeah, I guess this is what the problem is. The pastiche is. You have to do something new with it, right? So you've got these people forgetting who they are. Okay. But the idea is that like you've got an entire it takes that idea from those movies and then gives it to everyone. And what does that mean for a society like that? And then it just they didn't really explore the society part, which is the part that is different from every other version of this we've seen. And so I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah. And in turn, what they gave us instead was what I feel was a piss poor exploration of Ortega's. Because I feel like they are just infantilizing her. Like, she's doing...
I knew you would hate every scene she was in. I saw through my own eyes and your eyes, and I was like... I see this, I like it, Dave's going to hate every minute of this the entire time, because you don't like her character at all.
I don't like what they've written for her, and I don't understand what they're going for. But I think I kind of do sometimes. But she's like, personal log. I am Lieutenant Erica Ortega. Yeah, it's your fucking personal log. You don't need to say what your name is. And then like her own description of what she does is, I fly the ship.
Yeah.
And like that winds up being her mantra. Like they're not even trying to give her anything else other than like the base description of what her character does. It's like they're like, oh, bring up that like series description we had real quick. Oh, let's see, Erica Ortega's. What does she do? She flies the ship. That's it.
I hear that, but I don't think this episode was trying to build her character. I think this episode was trying to explore the idea of what is character. And like, the reason I like that I fly the ship thing is sometimes I go through bouts of like depression.
Yeah.
And I like don't know why. And I kind of like get this sort of like, just like, I'm in a dark place. And then I play a show, play music out live in front of people, and it connects with the people, and then like it's gone. And I realize like, oh, I haven't had a show in a few weeks. Like it's like that depression was just like me not doing the thing I love the most. Like me not fulfilling my own purpose. And like me getting on stage and the reaction and the feedback of the crowd and all that stuff, like it makes me feel like, oh, this is who I am. This is what I do.
Yeah.
There's that line in, and I always say it doesn't mean this in Firefly or Serenity, where he says, this is what I do, darling. And like, I always run that through my head when I realize like, oh, right. This is what I do, darling. Like, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So I connect with her in that way where like, sometimes you don't see sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees. It's hard to see the narrative self. But if you're doing something you love and like you aim at the thing you care about and do that thing and be who you are, sometimes it carries you through the moment or through the day. I connect with that a lot.
But, I'm also sort of experiencing her character here with the context of her character leading up to this, where what we know about her is like she's friends with Chapel, fine. Mm-hmm. She's mad at Spock, and I can't remember why. They keep alluding to her being mad at Spock, and we don't know why. I don't know why.
I don't. Does she just not like Spock? Because that's a pretty common thing for people that work with Spock.
Yeah, but I feel like they haven't told us why. We know that she was really mad. I think that Balance of Terror Redux was the first time we got a sense that she was mad at him for real. Mm. But all she does is shit on people. She's sitting there with M'Benga and shitting on Spock. This episode, and I don't know if they were going for well-worn crew camaraderie here, but she's when Uhura starts to have the effects of the meteors or whatever, the asteroid, and she can't remember what she did. Ortega's is loudly well, that's what you get for transcribing Tellarite sonnets instead of getting some shut-eye. Mm-hmm. It's you're like a little kid tattling to making sure the people around you are diminished in front of the higher ranks.
I didn't take it that way. I think they were just going for just going for giving a piece of Uhura's story and things she loves. She loves her work and she loves to stay up and do stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't take that as
now, Sulu on the original series, for instance, would have done the same thing to Chekhov, except he would have leaned over and quietly said it. Mm-hmm. Because you're not trying to rat your friends out to the upper crust, you know?
I think the idea is just everyone probably already knows this about Uhura. They know she loves doing that stuff. But I hear you. I would be annoyed at that if I'd taken it that way too, but it just didn't come off that way.
Yeah,
to me.
I just feel like they write her like a 12-year-old kid who's just being shitty.
I was thinking about that this episode too, and they don't have a child presence on this show. On a lot of Star Treks, they'll often have a younger character who's whatever. They fit that trope to connect with the audience, kind of like what they did with when they brought in Robin as the Batman's whatever the kids. They do that with Wesley Crusher and.
I feel like they did that with Data more than Wesley. Wesley was always saving the ship. Data didn't understand how to tell a joke.
I agree. Data definitely is a character we all connected with more, but they still try to do that. I'm not saying it always works, but they try.
No.
It worked really well with Nog and Jake.
Yeah.
Worked really, really well.
It was Nog and Jake were the devil and the angel in a singular kid character. Because it was Jake was I don't think we should do this. And Nog's no, we should absolutely do this. Yeah. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, they were great. I love them. And that, I feel maybe they're trying to make Ortega's, I don't know how much younger she is, but she may be a little younger. I don't even really know. But she does act younger. And I was watching this episode and her simple, I fly the ship and the freak out in her room and all this stuff. And being Miss, ma'am, talking to this computer, all that stuff. It made me feel like they were writing her as a kid, or at least writing her as for younger people watching the show or something, someone to connect with. And I don't know that that works. Or
oh my god, what was even worse is when she starts yelling at the computer, "Stop the rocks! Stop the rocks!" And
I don't think she said "stop the rocks."
She said "Stop the rocks"
to make it stop 7 times.
No. She did say that, but then she said "Stop the rocks."
I didn't hear the "stop the rocks."
I have to put it on captions because I don't understand M'Benga when he talks.
Me too.
He sounds like he's from a Nolan movie. They mix him like he's on a Christopher Nolan movie. I swear to God, he's
he just has a low voice, man.
What?
I don't have a problem hearing M'Benga normally, but I always leave captions on because I just don't understand anyone.
We're a musical engineer. You're deaf, as they say.
And what?
You're deaf.
Oh yeah. But no, I I can understand Mbenga as much as I understand anyone else, but he does have that, I'm down here voice.
Speaking of being deaf, I feel like I lost some hearing watching this episode because that high-pitched ringing noise they kept putting on whenever they would lose their memories. And yeah. I wondered if you would notice it or if it would bother you because it was killing me in Bethany.
Oh, no, it didn't bother me.
But I know you know, like I said, I'm
a little deaf.
You're a little deaf. You work in music.
Yeah. I'm on stage all the time and stuff, so I definitely have some areas in my frequency range that I hear less than others. But I don't know. That wasn't I heard that noise fine. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like too high to hear or anything. But like I heard it fine and it didn't bother me. It wasn't grating.
It was awful for us. We had to turn the TV way down and just like rely on the captions because they just kept doing it. And it was like, oh my God, it's killing my ears.
Well, you got any, you said we got some feedback.
Yeah, we got some feedback from good old Stu.
Good old Stu Little.
Good old Stu. Says, that's no moon, necessarily. They'd be jumping to conclusions. He says, hey, I love that even when setting out a couple of hours for personal time, Pike is still wearing his uniform. I mean, we saw him do it in the cage. By the way, I loved because do you remember that the only time we've ever seen this planet is the cage or the menagerie?
No, I guess not.
Oh, God. They went back to like Strange New World, 0. Like this was when you watch the cage, Pike is super depressed because they just, they're basically licking their wounds from an ill-fated mission on Rigel VII.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
And when they get to Talos 4, the Talosians make him relive part of that battle, except he's protecting Vina now. But like that, there's like this big like cave guy, well, the Kalarians,
right?
And he's got to fight this like giant hulking dude in like an ore helmet, and yeah, that's
really cool.
This is the same planet.
That's really cool.
In the cage,
I knew the name of the planet, and I was like, where is this from in canon? But I couldn't place it. But that makes sense.
And the yeoman that wound up taking over that,
Zach.
Yeah, Zach. They mention his yeoman getting killed in the cage, and that's why Yeoman Colt was assigned to him.
That's funny, mostly because in the episode, they say, who is it? Oh, crap. Zach. I guess it's La'an, maybe. Mm-hmm. It's just like, who is that? And I think Mbenga's like, he's one of the names on the casualty report, which is very funny because in the show, he was a name from the casualty report.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So,
really good.
So if you go back to the cage, you'll see like Spock is limping because he was injured. They literally had like crew members wearing like bandages and stuff.
Huh. That's fun.
Their ordeal on
and now we've
Rigel VII.
Seen what that ordeal was caused by.
Here's another fun little bit though. I saw someone point out that in the last season of Star Trek Picard, Riker remembers them having some mission on Rigel 6, and Picard says, it was Rigel 7. So, like, they're like, they didn't push that asteroid far enough out.
Oh, that's funny.
Like, people are still having hazy memories surrounding Rigel 7.
Yeah, that's great.
Anyway, Stu continues. Why does Ortega's open her personal log, which must have been only the latest in a long line of them, by saying what her name is? Exactly, Stu. Nobody was suffering from memory loss yet. Kind of lucky that she did, though, and it paid off later. Wouldn't it make more sense for Pike to stay on the ship for this undercover mission when he would be running the risk of being recognized by people he encountered last time? Maybe. I actually have tinnitus in one ear, so the constant use of even more ringing sounds in this episode was not exactly pleasant for me.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, man. Props to La'an for immediately divulging the strange thing that happened with her upon arrival instead of just saying she was fine until it got worse, as is the usual narrative convention with such things.
I take umbrage with that one. She didn't.
She didn't.
She says something's wrong, but she doesn't say that she lost 6 hours. like they say, it's been 6 hours, and she goes, "Oh." Like she doesn't like actually like say, "Oh, well, that's probably more of a problem than I'm." Like she just says she's like not feeling well or whatever.
Yeah, they did a little of both. I'd ask if they were somehow still carrying a universal translator with them, but maybe the one on the shuttle just has really good range. No, Pike explained that they had subdermal universal translators.
He says it specifically in this episode.
He explained it, Stu.
I don't understand your weird tension with Stu.
Well, you know I'm a self-loather. Stu started this shit. When Stu was like, "I am you," I'm like, well then, we must have words.
Yeah, that's true. As soon as he started saying he was you, he's like, you started really taking exception with his existence.
I'm just kidding anyway. As a woodcutter, I guess you could say M'Bengo was working on his own personal log. Very, very good. Very good. I did not expect to be seeing La'an's axe wound when this episode began.
All right.
Damn it. He's turning it around, man. He's turning it around. Chapel figured out the things you'd be able to remember and what you'd forget, but not how it affected reading? I considered titling this email, "See Spock Run," but I wasn't sure you'd get it. That feels like an insult. But you know what? I was confusing. Like, I guess he just forgot how to read English?
That's how I took that, was that like English is not his first language, and since the pad was in English maybe, but that doesn't seem right either. Like it seems like it would be, you could change the language, but maybe they don't know how to change the languages. I don't know.
Yeah. That's interesting. Asteroids don't count as natural development. By that logic, the dinosaurs being wiped out by an asteroid wasn't natural development either. Not that the dinosaurs were completely extinct, if Voyager's episode Distant Origin is to be believed. Yeah, man. Who's to say? Who's to say that asteroid was, natural?
Yeah, it's like, it feels like the forgetting thing does feel a little like abnormal development-y. That could be like what's supposed to happen to their society, and like, I don't know if that means they should interfere, but yeah, it's a justification to break the Prime Directive. They're all kind of bad. That's
that gray area that captains operate so well in.
Mm-hmm.
Stu continues, "I want to know what happened to King Zack after this. Maybe a good lawyer could get his sentence reduced for the excessive force Pike used by kicking him in the ribs repeatedly." I liked that. I really liked that.
Oh yeah, me too. It's not like he's gonna, in those moments, like it's the higher function thing. Like he remembers being like, that's how he would probably always react to someone hurting his people.
Yeah.
But he knows that's not in the regulations that he has, the sort of like rules for himself. But in that moment, when he's only driven by that one desire to save his people, he'll do whatever it takes. And like killing the king who's like oppressing the people doesn't seem like a bad thing. It only is if it's like against the rules for him for some other reason of justice,
Yeah.
But on a human level, that's why I hate it in some of these episodes. More recently, there was a Marvel movie where they don't kill the villain, and I was so mad about it. I've been like really pissed. Like they tried. I don't know if you've seen that movie yet. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah, don't.
But they don't kill the villain in one of the Marvel movies, and it was like they totally should have. Like there was no justification in my mind for not just doing it, and they like hang a lampshade on it about it, and I'm like, no, you should have just killed that villain. Anyway.
All right, Stu continues, some niggles and contrivances, but an interesting take on the amnesia plot type that found a new spin on things. Also, a rogue Starfleet officer turned dictator was a fun throwback plot element. I am kind of worried about Batel, though, if Pike wants to make things more serious, considering they seemingly aren't together by the time of the menagerie. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was thinking about, like, them staying together or not. But yeah, that's a good point. By then, they won't be together, I guess.
Yeah. Which we already see that as part of Pike's character to when things get rough, he pushes people away.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't get more rough than being like 8-degree burns and
oh yeah, that's true.
Like stuck in a wheelchair booping and beeping as a form of communication.
Yeah, that's a good point. he very well, that could be what drives them apart. So, and like, honestly, that kind of injury and that kind of stuff, like, it's very possible any relationship with any two people could have a hard time weathering that. So,
yeah,
and that's however many years later after this. So, like, there's also the possibility they just won't work out between now and then.
Yeah, I mean, she's also a Starfleet captain, so she could get killed in the line of duty.
Yeah, that's true.
Something really bad could happen. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like, that's it, man.
Oh, is that all?
Stu's done.
Stu's feedback?
Stu's done.
All right. Well, thank you, Stu. Thank you, Stu, so much.
Thank you really so much, man. I don't mean to be a dick. I honestly don't. Most of us like trying to be comedic. And,
yeah, no, I know. I just, you often have it trying to be comedic that's like sort of mean to Stu. Like, oh, yeah. Stu? Fine. You're wrong. He said it in the Universal Translator thing. It's like, not like, oh, you may have missed it, Stu. He actually said it. He's like, nah, he said it, Stu. Fuck you.
No, I love Stu.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'd give him a reach around.
On that note.
I mean, I have to. He's me, right?
That's true.
So, like...
What are you reaching around in this scenario?
My own physicality.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Star Trek universe. We'll be back soon with another episode. Now that this big move is, well, we'll see. I'm like, now that things are settling down, we might be able to get it to the episode sooner, because Strange New Worlds has been a little just whenever we can get to it, because I've been like moving or help. Man, my life's been scattered to the wind for like 2.5 years. So I'm finally settling into one place, and my mom is sick and living in Prattville, but in the next couple months she's going to be moving up here, which will make like my whole life in one building basically, except when I go to play shows. So like I'll be here, be podcasting, I'll be able to check on my mom, I won't have to like go bounce back and forth and do all, just like the amount of driving I've done. I'm really excited to settle in and be able to prioritize the stuff that I love.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. Like I don't. Because my mom's been sick, and I've been going back and forth, and to from Birmingham to Montgomery, that's about 100 miles, and it's just just the amount. I know you were doing way more than I was, so it's I don't even see how you've been functioning.
Everybody has their own thing, and like, yeah, it was tough. It was tough when I was dating a girl in Dallas. So I was like driving back and forth there and then helping my mom. So like there were like months where I spent like one night in my own bed like every month, like it was just and that was only because like I had 2 shows in Birmingham in a row, so I couldn't like bounce back and forth. So it's just like, man, those were all these like big relieving nights where it's like, I get to just be myself tonight. Of course now I'm sort of entering into a whole new phase where I've got a 12-year-old coming to live with me, so and my mom. So it's going to be a whole different thing. My niece is coming to live with me and my mom. And so it's going to be tougher in some ways, but also like it's my house, my space. It's not me like sleeping on a couch or whatever, you know? And it just feels better and easier. And
unless you want to. Yeah,
unless I want to sleep on a couch, I'll sleep on a couch. You won't tell me different.
That's right.
But anyway, so thanks for putting up with us, just putting out episodes when we can, and we'll be hopefully get on a better schedule now that things are settling in.
Yeah, I have 2 original series episode reviews with Effie in the can.
Sweet.
That I haven't released yet because I didn't know when we were doing this.
Right.
So like, I would love to get on a schedule.
Yeah, we did a Picard pretty much on a schedule, which was great.
Yeah,
and I'd like to get back to that for sure. I just hadn't been able to in the last few weeks. But anyway, we'll be back soon, guys. Jolan True.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.